Hi everyone, welcome to the Whiteleyverse with me, Connor Whiteley, for another daily short story. Now, before I start today's story, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to buy this short story and any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and at your local bookstore and local library if you requested, and you can order paperback copies from Amazon. Now, here's today's short story. I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did writing it.
Love in the Wait. Sitting back in the hard wooden chair, Noah bit his lip as he felt the coldness pulse through him. He hadn't been expecting that, but on that cold winter's evening with the snow falling outside, he supposed he should have. Noah moved himself on the chair as he tried to get comfortable, and smiled at across the large wooden table over to the two amazing people opposite him. He loved his grandparents. Noah looked at his perfect grandma, who was a stereotypical little old lady who shuffled along, tapping everyone's arm as she spoke to them, but Noah really did love her. Tonight his grandma was wearing her pearl necklace, golden dress and bright red glasses. Noah had to admit she had no fashion sense, but she was amazing. His grandma smiled at him before rubbing her hands together. Noah had no idea why she was always cold, but she was. He had no doubt she would have preferred to wear a thick fur coat inside the restaurant. Looking around, Noah had to admit this was a beautiful small restaurant with its white walls, wooden furniture and big fireplace. There was something perfectly homely about it, and after all the travel back from London, this is exactly what Noah needed. With the air smelling of amazing meats, cheeses and spices, Noah knew this was going to be a great dinner with delicious food and great company. The sounds of people talking, laughing and taking orders sounded great to Noah after the hours of city traffic and a silent train on the way home. Turning his attention back to his table, Noah smiled at his granddad with his full face, straight gray hair and posh shirt. Noah wasn't sure why his granddad always had to look perfect and like he was going to church, but he supposed that was a generation thing. As his grandparents picked up the thin paper menus, Noah just looked at them for a few more seconds. He really had missed everyone since he left for London and work. Noah really loved his job as an insurance investigator for a large multinational firm with some offices in London, but it never felt like home. He had grown up in the southeast and lived his entire life here. He loved all the semi-famous places, like Canterbury, Rochester and Dover, as they were always fun, interesting and his friends were there. But unlike lots of other people, Noah had a soft spot for the less well-known places in the southeast of England, like Rochester, Maidstone and Cuxton. Each of them had their own special things that made Noah love them. Yet when he was in London, he didn't get to see or experience any of it. He had his own apartment with Westminster, and all the great attractions just a few minutes away on the tube. But it wasn't the same. Noah used to love London. He loved the London Eye, museums and history of it. But he always felt as if it had been lacking something. Maybe a soul, a community, or maybe just something so Noah could call it home. He didn't know, not really. But as he sat on the wooden chair and looked at his grandparents, he knew this was home. For home was always where his family and love were. "Noah, how's that job of yours going?" his granddad said, his voice aged but refined. Noah looked around for a waiter, but there were none, for Noah knew exactly where this conversation was going. "Great, thanks, Granddad. I'm currently working with some investigators on a major fraud case." Noah smiled at his grandma as she leant in closer. "Oh, that sounds grand, no," she said, tapping his arm. "I'm happy for you, but you know I said John's leaving my old company." "He has, and there's opening for you." Noah rolled his eyes. As much as he loved his granddad, he had a terrible flaw of thinking that he knew what was best for everyone, and if they didn't do it then they were silly. Noah really didn't want to work for his granddad's old company. He used to work as a truck driver in the early part of his life and moved into power stations later on. Noah had no interest in working in a power station, especially a coal one. Come on, Noah, it is a great job. And John says there's at least 2 of your kind for you. Noah placed one hand on his forehead as he laughed a little. He knew lots of people would have mistaken his granddad for saying 2 of your kind, and considering his granddad went to church a lot, Noah couldn't blame them. But Noah had learnt that his granddad was thankfully fine with gays, but sometimes his language did push things a little far even for Noah. Granddad, I love you and thank you for the offer. But I have said more than enough times no. And I don't need to work in a particular place to find another gay. His granddad nodded and smiled. Do you have a boyfriend then? Noah tried not to laugh as he saw his grandma lean closer again and place her hand on Noah's arm. No, Noah said, feeling his face warm up. Then this job would be good for you. You'll be closer to us, his granddad said. Noah almost opened his mouth, but he couldn't argue with that, and he knew that's what this was truly about. His grandparents just wanted to see him more, and he couldn't blame them. Noah's parents were busy working, and at the weekends were spent him with each other. His brother and Noah he went back. His parents focused on family time, but sometimes Noah did feel like they abandoned his grandparents a bit. Hearing the sounds of other people talking, laughing, and enjoying themselves, Noah knew he just needed to steer the conversation another way, but even if he failed that, he knew this was going to be a magical evening. He just didn't know entirely why. Oscar knew lots of people didn't like waiting and working at restaurants, but he did. He absolutely loved it. He got to meet and work with amazing people, customers, and see the occasional hot guy as he worked. And he needed the money. As much as he loved finishing university, a few months ago, Oscar wasn't impressed the universities he applied to for his master's were taking so long to get back to him. And as Oscar's parents had told him lovingly, the problem with a psychology degree was it was useless without a master's degree at the minimum. So he needed to work. Grabbing a warm plate of delicious seafood, peppers and rice, Oscar stepped through the large black doors and entered the main restaurant area. Oscar always loved the homeliness of it. He loved the white walls that were filled with art, local pictures, and fake animal heads. There was something comforting about it all, and Oscar loved that feeling. He started to walk through the restaurant, smiling to the customers and admiring the cute wooden tables. Oscar liked seeing everyone enjoying themselves. In a way, it made him feel good about himself. It meant him and his friends were doing a good job. But he was surprised to see it was so busy in here tonight. Almost every table was full of laughing, talking, and smiling customers. That was like a job well done in itself. It meant Oscar and his friends had been doing such a good job that news about how great the restaurant was had spread. Breathing in all the amazing scents of the meats, fish, and spices in the air, Oscar kept smiling as he served the customers their food, asked if they were enjoying themselves, and checked if they needed any more service. They didn't. He didn't know why, but for some reason, Oscar always felt a bit disappointed if the customer didn't need anything else. Oscar supposed he had been doing waiting for so long, especially at university, that he had always been used to serving people. Oscar tried his best to keep his smile under control, as he remembered how his waiting job had been useful with his past boyfriends. Pushing those thoughts quickly away, Oscar left the table, walked around the restaurant, and checked on more customers. After a while, Oscar felt his feet ache and pulse tiny amounts of pain up his leg. He knew he shouldn't have worn new shoes to work. That was silly. Being a waiter was bad enough after a 12-hour shift with all the standing up and walking. But using the 12 hours to break in new shoes. That was silly, and now Oscar was paying the price, but in some effort to show he was a professional, or as professional as waiters can get, he kept smiling and serving his customers. Oscar turned a corner in the restaurant, smiling and greeting the happy customers sitting on the wooden chairs, and out of the corner of his eye, Oscar saw someone waving. He looked at the waving person, and Oscar was glad he wasn't holding food or drinks because they would be on the floor right now. Oscar looked straight at the utterly beautiful waving person. He couldn't believe how this stunning guy walked into the restaurant without any of the waitresses saying anything. This guy was beautiful. Oscar couldn't stop staring at his strong muscles, hiding under a freshly pressed white shirt. That was enough to send Oscar over the edge. But Oscar kept staring at the guy's blonde curtain-style hair, his strong cheekbones, and his eyes. Oscar couldn't focus on anything but those sparkling eyes that was only made better by the light of the restaurant. This guy was perfection. Then it dawned on Oscar that the beautiful waving guy was still waving at him. Oscar didn't hesitate, again, about going to see him. Oscar had to see him. Noah was more than pleased the conversation had changed from his granddad's old company to his grandma's gardening club. It was something Noah was actually interested in. He used to love helping his grandma in the garden as a child, and he had had a few boyfriends that did horticulture at university. With his granddad on his phone doing God knows what, Noah kept staring at his beautiful grandma with her golden dress, pearl necklace, and bright red glasses staring back at him. Noah loved listening to her. It was even better than breathing in all the heavenly smells of the freshly cooked meat, fish, and fruity desserts in the air. This really was a perfect night. So I told the judges that my sunflower was taller than Julie's. They agreed and I got first place in the gardening club, his grandma said. What did Julie say? Oh no, Julie wasn't happy. She grabbed the church's wine and poured it into my sunflower. Now it's gone purple, and it's growing better than ever. Noah smiled at that, trust his grandma to have some strange story for him. He was looking forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. He loved coming home to his parents and brother, and Noah felt like this was the first of a lot of great dinners with him returning for the Christmas break. Noah was never going to complain that as he was a junior, the company felt it was in his interest to partake in the 2-week Christmas shutdown and let the more experienced investigators continue with the case. Or as Noah heard it, we'll give you a 2-week full pay break. After a few more moments of his grandma telling him another story about one of her churchy groups, Noah saw his granddad looking around for a waiter. Decided what you're having, Granddad? Noah asked. Yes. I always have the lobster in here. It's great. But I cannot find a waiter. Noah looked around and saw a waiter talking to some customers, but he looked done with them now, so Noah waved his arm at him. He knew he could be rude, but if Noah had learned anything, it was sometimes you needed to make yourself known to people. Otherwise, that waiter was hot. Noah's mind went blank as he stared at the haughty waiter starting to walk over to them, but then the hottie stopped and stared back. Noah was sure if his mind was working, he would question that, but this waiter was way too hot to think properly. He didn't know what it was with this hottie that he loved so much, but Noah knew it had something to do with those tight black jeans, big puffy blonde hair, and fit body. Normally, Noah never thought of guys as fit or hot. It always took him a while to like a guy before he realized he was attracted to them, but this waiter, Noah didn't know. There was just something about him. With the huffing and puffing of his granddad making Noah snap back to reality, he waved the hottie over again and couldn't help but smile as he came over. He looked amazing. With the hottie being closer now, Noah stared past that amazing puffy hair, perfect face, and his brilliant eyes. He was beyond Noah's wildest dreams, and that was when Noah wanted to kick himself. He never ever acted like this before. He was a strong, confident man who didn't think of people as a hottie or beyond his wildest dreams. But Noah didn't know why, but for some reason hottie made him feel weak and so vulnerable. But Noah liked the feeling. Then he noticed his grandma tapping on his arm. Your order, no? She said. Huh? Noah said, snapping back to reality, staring into Hottie's amazing eyes. Your order, sir, Hottie said, his voice even more perfect than his face and body. Noah looked at the menu and picked something random. He didn't want to look away from Hottie for too long. Chicken curry, please, Noah said, smiling. As Hottie relayed the order, Noah kept staring at Hottie the entire time. He knew it probably looked weird, but Noah didn't care. Hottie was too beautiful not to look at, and considering he was probably never going to see Hottie again, Noah wanted to make this time count. "Anything else?" Hottie asked. Whilst his grandma and granddad said no thank you, Noah was so tempted to ask for this guy's phone number, but he knew that wasn't right. At least with his grandparents there, and of course Hottie was at work. Noah shook his head when Hottie looked at him, and Noah watched him walk away. Then his grandma ruined the moment by tapping on his arm. "He's definitely one of yours," his granddad said. "Did you see that hair?" "Oh no, our people don't have hair like that. He's definitely yours, and you can keep him." Noah smiled at that. He wouldn't mind keeping Hottie. "No," his grandma said, tapping his arm. "You okay? You awfully quiet." Noah blinked a few times and turned to face his grandparents, who were both smiling at him. A part of him expected his grandma to smile, but he wasn't so sure about his granddad. "No, you like him?" his grandma asked. Noah felt his face warm up. "I did say he was one of yours. You might as well keep him." Noah cocked his head a little at his granddad. He was trying to understand if his granddad was just talking, or somehow, and slightly homophobically, giving him permission to ask Hottie out. "Oh, Granddad," his grandma said. Noah never understand why his grandma called her husband Granddad in front of him. "You're telling him wrong." Noah straightened his head and smiled at his grandma. "No, we fine with your people. You have no interest in doing that stuff. We prefer the church. But we know love when we see it. We've been married for 50 years. Your people might not get that long, but still," his granddad added. "You want me to go and ask the guy out?" Noah asked. His grandparents looked at each other, a bit unsure, and they both looked at him again. "As long as you promise never to come to church and tell people we encourage this," his grandma said. "Believe me, I can do that." "Then go. You're young, have fun," his grandma said. "Even if it is with your own people." Noah laughed a little, kissed his grandma's hand, and left off into the restaurant. He had to find Hottie and ask him out. He at least had to try. After giving the order of Waving Guy and his grandparents to the kitchen, Oscar went back out around the restaurant, checking on customers and breathing in the amazing sense of meats, fish, and rich desserts. Oscar really did love his job, and after seeing Waving Guy, he couldn't believe how great he felt. He wanted to think about why he did, but he was enjoying the feeling too much. He loved the way Waving Guy looked at him, with his blonde curtain-style hair and muscles. He looked amazing. As Oscar checked with a few more customers as they ate their delicious food at their wood tables, he listened to the chiming of forks against plates, talking and laughing as the night progressed. Wandering around the restaurant, Oscar hoped no one needed him, as he just wanted to look busy and think about Waving Guy. He was so beautiful, and it bugged Oscar why he was so fixated on him. Oscar had seen other good-looking guys before, and he had always managed to act professionally. But then he realized this guy wasn't good-looking, he was beautiful, and Oscar realized he had never used that word to describe a man before. "Excuse me." Oscar turned around to see who said that, and he couldn't help but smile as he stared into those brilliant eyes, blonde curtain-styled hair, and muscles of Waving Guy. With him standing so close to Oscar, he savored in Waving Guy's strong, expensive aftershave and made Oscar feel weak. Oscar wanted so badly in that moment to run his fingers through the guy's hair. But then he saw another waiter pass, and Oscar remembered he needed to act professionally. He was at work after all. "Yes, sir," Oscar said. The Waving Guy seemed a little nervous, and a part of Oscar dreaded what he wanted to come next. "I was wondering what time your shift finished." It wasn't the exact wording Oscar had planned, but he liked it, and he wished more than anything he could just finish work right now and go off with this handsome, beautiful stranger. But he was at work. What would his boss say if he found out? What if his boss got mad? What if the other waiters and waitress hated him for it? Oscar started to feel little drops of sweat roll down his back as he panicked about it. He needed this job for university. He had to save the money. He had to. My name's Noah. Oscar's mind kicked back into normal gear at the sound of such a beautiful name. Noah. Oscar didn't know any Noahs, but the name sounded good, perfect for such a beautiful man. Oscar, he said. Oscar loved the way Noah seemed to smile and relax at the sound of his name. Did he like it as much as Oscar loved his? He started to feel hot under the collar and wished his body would behave in more ways than one. What time does your shift end? If you're interested, of course. You don't have to. Actually, I'm just going to leave, Noah said. Oscar smiled as he watched his large strong man get so flushed and embarrassed over him. No one had ever done that for him before. Wait, Oscar said. I get off in about an hour. Go back to your grandparents. Meet me in the car park if you want to grab a drink. Noah smiled at that, and Oscar watched him turn away and walk away. When the guy left, Oscar felt a wave of panic wash over him. He didn't know what he had just done. He couldn't do that. He couldn't grab a drink with a stranger. The passing of a waitress reminded Oscar that he was working, and he continued to walk round the restaurant, talking to customers and serving them. But he avoided Noah's part of the restaurant. It didn't take long for Oscar to realize he didn't want to go for a drink. He wanted to go home. He wasn't interested in dating, especially not a stranger he met at work. He didn't want that. But he was so beautiful. Oscar stopped as he remembered Noah's amazing brilliant eyes, blonde curtain-styled hair, and great body. He was beautiful, and he was so kind and confident. As Oscar walked on, he knew he was going to meet Noah at the end of his shift. He was scared, and he knew he had nothing to be worried about. Noah was a great hot guy that Oscar wanted, even if it was for just a drink. Waving his grandparents goodbye as they drove out onto the main road, Noah smiled as he remembered how both of them had made him promise to text them when he got home, call them in the morning and tell them all the details. As he stood there in the small pitch-black car park, breathing in the amazing meat-scented air, Noah felt a wave of nervousness wash over him. He was nervous for the first time in ages. Noah knew he shouldn't be. He was always so confident at work, able to handle any situation and handle anyone with a unique kind of confidence and coldness. But Noah was so nervous. Despite the cold, Noah's palms were sweaty, and he felt wave after wave of nervousness come over him. He wasn't even sure if Oscar, that was such a hot name, was even going to show up. Noah still felt bad for basically hunting him down at his place of work, asking him out so he didn't have a choice, and running away. Noah hoped Oscar didn't think of him as a coward or something worse. Granted, he didn't know what was worse than a coward. But as Noah heard the wooden door to the restaurant open and someone walk out, Noah turned around and smiled. Oscar was standing there. And all either one of them could do was stare into each other's eyes. Noah loved Oscar's amazing brilliant eyes, puffy blonde hair, and slim body. He was stunningly perfect. Then Oscar started to walk over to him, and Noah couldn't help himself but walk over too and smile. They both briefly stopped in front of each other. Noah knew this was awkward, but he went in for a hug and Oscar kissed him. Noah loved the taste of his soft lips. In that moment, Noah knew this was going to be an amazing evening. He had had dinner with the grandparents he loved, and now Noah was going to have drinks with a beautiful man. And Noah hoped drinks would turn into something else. Something that would last a long, long time.
Welcome back everyone, it's me again, Connor Whiteley. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's story, because I flat out love writing, creating stories and sharing them with you. If you really enjoyed today's story, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithms. And if you want to buy this short story or any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and you can get them from your local library if you requested. and you can order the paperback copies from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. Lastly, if you want to support the channel on a one-off basis, then you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/ConnorWhiteley. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's story, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the channel. So, thanks for watching the Whiteley Verse, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.